fended off a kiss attack from Jimmy Canero with a well-placed kick to the crotch. I mean, I really had a crush on this guy and had to let him know. I'm sure he thought of that as he writhed on the ground. Everyone was full of anticipation. The piñata that hung from a cottonwood limb was begging to be destroyed. Mrs. Barber called us together and laid down the law. Sticks could only be swung overhead. Anyone violating this rule would be disarmed. With blindfolds in place, sticks clutched in a two-handed grip, we went to work. The image of Ellen Maitland's assailant must have been mirrored in her eyes just before the first blow from an undetermined weapon fell across her face with a rage strong enough to fracture her right orbital socket and explode her eye. Carpenters working on the roof at the opposite end of the motel from where Ellen's face and skull were being rendered to a mass of bone fragments, torn tissue and blood, heard nothing, saw nothing. The sounds of their skill saws and hammers drowned out whatever screams there might have been. We peaked in a frenzy within seconds. One after another, our blows made contact with a hollow thwack. I took my best shot at the piñata, lodging my stick inside it. My hand vibrated as someone else brought their weapon down on mine. The stinging sensation it caused coursed through my palm. I tugged at my stick, trying to free it, and lifted the blindfold just as the donkey erupted, spilling its contents onto the ground. The deed was done. The injuries had been too numerous and too savage and too anatomically traumatic to leave any semblance of her plain, haunting beauty. Ellen Maitland's face was obliterated, the damage so thorough it was impossible to determine the weapon or the number of blows she had received. By 5 p.m. the party was breaking up. I'd been sitting curbside for what seemed like a long time when sirens cut through the still summer air 1 block west and shrieked south toward the interstate. A half-hour later, my mother showed up. The only explanation I got was that Dad had been called into work. It was a strange week at my house. We saw very little of my dad. There were hushed, late-night conversations between him and Mother as she brought his saved dinner from the oven and sat with him while he ate. I remember catching her crying one afternoon and asking her what was wrong. She mumbled something into her handkerchief and waved me away with her hand. I was just young enough, and selfish enough, to resent anything that took my father's attention away from me and brought my mother to tears. It wasn't a hard week to remember. 5 days after Ellen Maitland died in a love-for-sale motel, Sirhan shot and killed Bobby Kennedy at the Ambassador in L.A. The front page of the Billings Gazette dedicated itself to national mourning and relegated a local tragedy to the back of the paper. Now, 27 years past that June day, on a biting winter's night, my telephone rang, and as soon as I answered it, Ellen Maitland reached out from the grave and put a stranglehold on my life. The call came at the same time I was anticipating that my clogged sinuses were going to blow off the front of my face. I'd had my shot of NyQuil and was bundled on the couch watching the sing-along version of Grease, doing my best to sing along. Miss Siegel?
Speaking?
This is Bob Maitland.
Okay.
There was a pause. Do you know who I am?
Of course, Mr. Maitland.
Bob, please.
I know who you are, Bob.
Who the hell didn't know who he was? The golden boy of the state Republicans, and only the most popular political figure in Montana since Mike Mansfield. Rumor had it that he was about to announce his run for governor.
What can I do for you?
We need to talk. I had a conversation with a friend of yours, Maggie Mason. She encouraged me to call you.
Okay.
Are you all right? You sound a little...
If I sound like I'm dying, Bob, I said, and emphasized his name. That's because I am dying. I have a combination of Ebola and hantavirus, and probably don't have more than a few hours to live.
I could hear him chuckle. Oh, bad stuff. I had it a while back.